You're watching the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network. Now it's time for the Brandon Austin Show.
Well, we didn't plan on this one, but here we go. We are going to have some breaking news on the program today. Action Sports Jax 24/7 network. We've been off since 1 o'clock. Obviously, news broke this morning about Liam Cohen pulling the rug on the Jags and staying in Tampa. Well, just news out moments ago and confirmation from the Jags, and we have confirmed it with Action Sports Jax. Trent Baalke is out as the general manager of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Feels like it finally happened for many, and I think it had to happen for the Jacksonville Jaguars organization. A statement from Shad moments ago, and this is what it says. Hold on. I'll get it for you. It says, following several discussions with Trent Baalke this week, we both arrived at the conclusion that it is in our mutual best interest to respectfully separate, effective immediately. Trent leaves us with my deepest appreciation for his efforts over the past 5 seasons. Ethan Waugh will serve as interim general manager and play an important role with others as we continue the process of interviewing candidates to serve as our new head coach. I am deeply committed to building a winner here in Jacksonville and look forward to introducing a new head coach who will make that happen for our players and fans alike. So it looks like now the Jaguars again will have a head coaching search, and that coach could very well have a lot to do with what happens next with the GM and everything else. There's a lot of restructuring that we thought could happen anyway. If you really listen to our show the last couple of days, even though, in really a couple of weeks, even though Shad Khan had kept Trent Baalke, even though Ben Johnson chose Chicago, even though the Liam Cohen news, you would hear us say, and just told somebody within that last hour, in fact, I'm still not convinced Trent Baalke is going to be a part of this thing moving forward, especially in the capacity that he was. But I think Shad, in many respects, was waiting for that coach second interview to maybe be the guy that helps move and restructure. Problem is, he never got to the second interview. Ben Johnson didn't take a second interview. Liam Cohen said no thanks on the second interview. So he couldn't even get people in a room in person to then say that. I've been told in the last couple of weeks, you would not say in your first interview, you got to get the GM out of there. You wouldn't do that in a virtual interview. So it would take this second interview. Problem is, Jags never got here. But the problem is also this looked bad on the organization, and we knew that for the last 2 weeks. And finally, it feels like Shad Khan heard it. And Shad Khan, I think, sitting step by step with Trent Baalke, and while he might have an appreciation for him, another thing we said today, the Jags still haven't completed the Rooney Rule. Chicago beat them to that to be able to go after Ben Johnson without a second interview. What else we said this morning on the show? Well, you could offer Liam Cohen yesterday if you had the Rooney Rule already taken care of. And while that doesn't sound correct, Patrick Graham and Robert Saleh are still going to interview. Saleh's the only one that actually qualifies for the Rooney Rule because you need 2 in-person interviews. And the Jags hadn't completed that. So Tampa Bay could beat them to the punch here today or last night to say, hey, we can sweeten this deal and make it better for Liam Cohen to come back here. So, again, what I said in the last couple of days and what has been swept under the rug a little bit is the fact that Ben Johnson picked Chicago, or even a Liam Cohen chose to stay, is that not only was Shad sticking with Trent, but Trent also was kind of messing up the process of it all. To not be able to make a move when you need to make the move and move fast. You've got to put the pieces in play to be able to make a move. That's exactly why Eddie George was interviewed by Chicago over the weekend. Maybe they'll consider him someday, but they weren't considering him for the job. They needed to do that interview. And that's just, listen, is that a mockery of the Rooney Rule? We can have that debate later. We're just talking about what happened and transpired here. And the Jags were late to the party on Ben Johnson, late to the party on Liam Cohen. Tampa beat him out. Chicago beat him out. Maybe they were going to do that anyway, but it didn't help. And now the Jags make a move. So what does it mean? I mean, I'll go with the initial thought I have. Here's what it means to me. Ethan Waugh now becomes part of, I think he was already part of this a little bit. He's part of this next phase, which is almost a new phase even though you've gathered a lot of information with 10 interviews. You have people in play. I would think Ethan Waugh, I don't know if he was the one that came up with Trent Baalke and Shad Khan to the list initially, but why not throw a couple more names in if Ethan Waugh has some power here to say it? I think you're still going to see this in the next few days, a week, whatever it is. You are going to see more restructuring, maybe even before the coach gets announced. Now, maybe they wait, but could you see a play where I'll just keep referencing it because we do, and I know he's not the most popular guy in Jacksonville right now over the last 48 hours, but that is the Baselli type of play where you beef up the front office and that becomes more infrastructure. I thought we might see that anyway over the next couple of days without this Baalke move to indicate that the front office restructuring is happening and you're starting to send a message. But this happened instead. So that doesn't mean you'll see Baselli soon or somebody of that ilk inside the organization as part of the front office infrastructure. But could you now do that and also make Baselli part of this? Because you actually lose a football guy now in this process with Baalke now no longer there. So I think there's a lot of things on the table, and then you just reset this whole process, which we said earlier on the show. The one thing you can't do from today is panic. If you're the Jags, you can if you're a fan, but you can't panic. You now have to take a step back and make the appropriate moves. Well, step one, this was an appropriate move. Finally, and we can talk about why this took so long down the road. The bottom line is if you're looking forward, this was the right move, at least from what happened the last couple of days, couple of weeks to right now. This now sets the next thing's in play. And then you go slowly, if you need to, wait for Joe Brady, Saleh, Patrick Graham, Monken, McCarthy. I don't know. You do that at whatever leisure you need to make sure you make the right decision. You take punches in the face for the next couple of weeks if you have to. And you take people hammering you. There's been enough of that. What's another couple of weeks? You do whatever you need. And this, by the way, is going to be received very well. The fact now the fans are happy. So it actually is a positive move for you and your fan base and your ticket renewals and everything else, at least to give you some hope that the next things can now go in order in the proper way and in an excitable way. So again, move number one, this is a good move. It's a good pivot. And I think that's an easy one, but it took a long time to get here. And this obviously wasn't easy for Shad, but he finally got the message with the moves of this week. And he made the move. So now you move forward. And who's going to be the next head coach of the Jags? You take your time trying to find that, and you can build infrastructure. But keep in mind, if they do want to be coach-centric, even with these other candidates, that coach may have a lot to say about the next GM, the EVP, the this, the that, the everything else. There's input there. So this opens the door up. So here's where else my mind goes. And again, we're all getting this at like real time. I did not, nobody saw this happening. Believe me, I was on the phone with somebody just a short time ago and hung up because this was happening. Like nobody knew. This was a quick move for Shad Khan. And I wonder, could you get Liam Cohen back in the mix if you really wanted him? Like, who's to say you couldn't pick up the phone and get Liam Cohen back in the mix and say, hey. Now, Spytek, there were some thoughts out there today that Spytek, the GM in Tampa, he just took the Raiders job, I think it's reported. And there were some, who knows, but some rumblings that would have been the guy that Cohen wanted. Well, does that mean you wouldn't take the job? You still get a chance at whoever GM? We'll see. So I just wonder if you go back to Cohen and be like, hey, look, we kind of changed this. You can't get Ben Johnson. He's out. You can't get Mike Vrabel. He's out. Everything else is still on the table. I mean, sure, Tampa gave the guy a raise. So what? You can give him a bigger one. So if you really do want him, and I'm not even saying that you need to do that, but you could. That's where my mind kind of goes, that you could do that. I'm trying to follow a lot of things here right now as We get the breaking news again. We're jumping in here on the show on the Action Sports Jacks 24/7 network. The beauty of this thing is that we can do it. And we just jump in here with the news that Trent Baalke has been fired. It ends a 5-year run that has quite frankly been tumultuous. It feels like for you, the fan, that Shad finally listened, is my guess. Quite frankly, it feels like for even us in the media, it feels like Shad kind of listened finally. Like we've been saying stuff for at least 2 weeks, but even more than that. And one of the things that we continue to say is like there are not going to be people that just pick up the phone and call Trent Baalke and say, hey, we want you to be a part of our organization. Like that's not it. You have somebody in your building that nobody else probably would have, especially at the GM spot. And I'm not going to sit here and pile on Trent Baalke. That's just a fact. He wouldn't be a GM anywhere else but Jacksonville. And that's one of my biggest issues over these last few years in several different hires, not just Baalke. And now that is gone. So you can now move on a little bit and start healing some of it. I'm just going to be honest with you. Again, I am not the pile-on Baalke guy that everybody else has been because I think it's been such vitriol, and I don't love the fact that even Shad put him in the position to be in this way for the last 2 weeks, or even back in the other time with the Urban departure, but Peterson hire. I thought Shad could have come out stronger and said he's our guy instead of just letting him float out there. So it's been a weird deal with Baalke. And I'm not advocating for it. I'm just saying how I feel about some of the angst toward him alone, and it goes deeper than that. But I went out to that newsroom and I said, hey, Baalke just got fired, and Nick was there. I mean, as much of a newsroom that doesn't cover sports can erupt, it kind of erupted. And if you go back to what I've said these last couple of days, last week or so, if you say, hey, Doug Peterson, we appreciate him. Trent Baalke's staying, and you did a team meeting in the MEC with every employee, they would not even golf clap. They wouldn't have been on board. I guarantee you right now that ticket office is popping champagne a little bit. Maybe that's a little overboard. They still have a couple L's on their table this week. Not their fault, but they do. There's still stuff to navigate. But I'm telling you, this is an alleviation of something in the way of selling tickets, of not being right, not everybody being on board, not everyone pulling in the same direction. This heals a lot of that. This solves a lot of that. And I just don't think it should be based on because Trent Baalke is the worst guy in the world. I'm not saying that. It's just sometimes you got to move on from folks because of what it says and what it has said. And really the fault here is it's taken Shad too long to do that. But at least we can turn around and say, he did it. He did it. I don't think too late. No, it's not really too late. So that's the thing. It's not too late. It was never going to be too late. I keep seeing too late. It's not too late. The reason why it's not too late, because too late is when you hire the next guy, try to stick him with the next guy, have him for 3 more years after that, and then that's too late. Yeah, sure, anytime's too late for you, but it's not too late for this process. It's not too late to get it right. It was the move to make eventually for Shad Khan. It just took too long. Fair enough, but it's not too late. Totally disagree with the too late. It was a terrific pivot, in fact. At least got the message. See, again, I'm getting a lot of that. Too little, too late. Too little, too late. Too little, too late. No, it's not. There's still a lot of coaches out there. They're not the only one with a job available. It's not even too late to get Liam Cohen. If they really want to go get Liam Cohen, go get him. You missed out on the 2 best coaches. Who? Ben Johnson is who you missed out on. You were never getting Vrabel. And quite frankly, I'm not sure you were getting Ben Johnson even with Baalke gone. I'm not convinced of that. I don't think anybody should be if you watch that news conference today. It certainly played a role, though, we all think. That's fair enough. So again, I'm not in the camp of it's too late. I actually think this is a pretty prudent move on the heels of what haven't been prudent moves to maybe make this better sooner than later. Because here's the deal. You still got to get the coaching hire right no matter who's in the GM spot. Chicago has no idea if they got it right. They think they did. Liam Cohen has to be the right choice if that's who you really want. Joe Brady, okay, if that's who you want, he's got to be the right guy. Aaron Glenn, is that who you were referencing? Fair enough, but doesn't it feel like Aaron Glenn was going to the Jets? He could have come in here for another interview, fair enough. But guess what? He also had another interview planned with the Saints, and he's not going there. So I feel like, I don't feel like Aaron Glenn was a top choice here. I feel like he was a candidate. I don't think he was the top choice. Might have been your top choice. I just feel like this was offense the whole time. I think you got to continue to see offense. And that's why I don't think Saleh will be named the coach by Friday. I think this reopens up everything. And I think the Jags are still going to turn offense here at the end of the day. We'll see. We don't know. So who knows what they missed? Some people say, Randy says they missed several coaches publicly and some privately. Who knows? Right? They know that. But the bottom line is Trent Baalke is fired, and it ends, quite frankly, a very tumultuous run for the Jaguars GM. He was out of the league for a few years. Dave Caldwell hired him as an assistant in 2020. He gets promoted to the job under Urban Meyer, probably because many people didn't think they would come with Urban Meyer. So he went from out of the league to a GM job after that San Francisco stint, gone through multiple coaches, including Urban, including Harbaugh, including Tom Sula, including Chip Kelly, which I always did say about that run through those kind of coaches. I'm not sure how many people were getting along with a lot of those coaches at the time to begin with. So that's an interesting run of coaches, number one, that he went through so many, but I'm not sure it's strictly on Baalke, but it's on his resume. And then, obviously, Doug Peterson, who seemingly is able to get along with Baalke until the end, but still takes the fall. The question that you could ask yourself is, how much does Shad regret firing Peterson, keeping Baalke now that he ends up firing Baalke? But at the end of the day, 2 weeks later, we get exactly what we thought should have happened right away, as a reset in Jacksonville. So however we got here, we got here. The only thing is, there's no Ben Johnson still on the table. So I'm trying to keep track of all these things coming in. If Liam is on the table, it's Liam. But any of the offense coaches like Brady or Monken with a new GM would be a good step forward. Let me put some stuff out here in the universe as we are live with breaking news with the Trent Baalke firing. We're going to go on TV here in a little bit, too. So we're going to probably take you up until 4 o'clock. The Young and Norvell show starts at 4 o'clock, so I'll have to get out of the studio. But definitely want to get everybody's reaction to this as this news breaks. Now what for the Jaguars is really my question, I think, for all of us. Now what with Baalke out? I don't think this thing speeds up. That's for sure. Let's see if we get some more comments in so I can get you guys on board. Baalke did get it right with Brian Thompson. Listen, Baalke did. The roster is not as good as everybody thought it was, but not as in bad shape as it could be. That's for sure. There were, as much angst as there was for Baalke, I just still can't believe that he kept his job coming out of the season, because I still think the plan went awry. It turns out that Shad thought the roster was as good as Baalke thought it was. That Doug Peterson was to blame for not calling plays and not getting enough out of the roster. But I don't think he was right in that. I mean, it turns out that's the way it was. That's the way he did it. But it wasn't right in that. The plan was not great, or is not as good as we thought it could be. We like the plan in free agency. You go get guys that have been on winning programs, the Armsteads, the Savages, the Darbys, all those, because you couldn't get over the top and you need a little bit more leadership. Okay, I saw the logic in that. Bottom line is, it didn't work. The plan didn't work. You go get Ryan Nielsen, sure, that's on Doug. Didn't work. You get Armstead and you don't use him properly, that didn't work. That's part of the GM. That's part of the coaching staff. They're all in that together. There are so many things that just didn't work the way you said it was going to work. This coaching cycle has not worked the way it was supposed to work. So, again, there's a lot of blame on Baalke. I think you go back to that unusual and goofy news conference a couple weeks ago, and we asked the question, it's like, it looks like you're clearly blaming Peterson. And it looks like they did. So now they're blaming a little bit of Baalke finally, meaning Shad Khan. We can't use the excuse anymore now, though, and that's worth something. So no excuse for Baalke. Yeah, everything was Baalke, right? Baalke. Now that thing is going to be done. Let's see what else we got here. Most coveted job in the NFL now. Could be. Should be. Maybe. For someone so successful in management of a business, I feel like his initial instincts for these kinds of decisions are bad. Or he's just not listening to enough, or getting bad information to those he's listening to. But I suggested this on the show today, and it was I've talked to a lot of people this week around the NFL, and I asked them this question. And so I shared it today. If we can all see it, and anytime we dig on Baalke or what it is or why it doesn't work or why does the league look at them as, if we get the same responses within 2 or 3 minutes of a conversation, why isn't Shad getting those responses, or why isn't he listening to that? That was really the thing that I didn't understand in this. And Liam Cohen made him listen at the end of the day. Like, we have no idea what transpired between Liam Cohen last night, this morning, and then this afternoon. But we definitely know that he listened. And somebody got to him. Who was it that got to him? Did he make the decision on his own? Was he embarrassed by it? Liam Cohen for the Pride. Yeah, maybe there's a spot there. There's a spot in the Pride, just like Frank Gore Jr., right? Or Senior. Frank Gore. Did he go by Senior? Yeah, he goes by Senior. I think Shad really needs a football guide like Pacelli. Let's do it, EVP. Now we got some EVP folks in the afternoon. The morning crowd, not so much, but the afternoon crowd seems a little bit more like it. Colin says the bad man is gone. At least the stopper of this organization is gone. It's been a problem. And now that problem is gone. Should have fired both at the same time? Absolutely. Let's see what else we got. Give Belichick and Mike Lombardi a blank check. I doubt it. That ain't going to happen. Let's see what else we got on the comment sheet. We got a lot of them flying in, and I'm trying to keep up with it. John says, PR guy got to him and respectfully told it to him straight. I think you get presented things. I've said this all a while. This stuck out to me on the Detroit loss, that I don't think you try to react quickly to the noise. And I'm not telling you that's right. We all think there should have been a move after the Detroit loss, right? But I think some people go about their business like we're not reacting to what everybody says. And I think it's pretty crystal clear that Shad tries not to do that. And I think he's wrong for doing that on occasion. You can't do that all the time. You can't just react to the public. You can't react to fans. And if you think about it, you go all the way back in the history of this organization. Take Wayne Weaver, for example. The reason he fired Tom Coughlin back in the early 2000s was because of the noise. And then you interview Wayne Weaver years later. He says, the most regretful thing I ever did in this organization was fire Tom Coughlin. So, that's one of the reasons why you can't do that. And I understand that, but you still have to listen. And the bottom line is the ticket stuff can't be going well. So that gets your attention. I don't know how much you look at that week to week, but I can guarantee you people relay that kind of, hey, renewals aren't good right now. All those things. And then the noise gets so loud. And for whatever reason, it doesn't feel like Doug Peterson when he was there, or the noise in the building is loud enough locally. I think when the national guys start to scream it a little bit, that's when they listen a little bit more. But I don't know why it takes so long. I mean, we're writing articles telling you which way to go with this thing. I mean, we're on daily. Yeah, sure. Some of it can be an emotion after a Monday loss or whatever with fans and even media in town and stuff like that. We're very close to it. But the bottom line is, I mean, some of this sentiment has been going on for weeks, months, and years. And it takes so long to get to the actual conclusion. I mean, I think everybody around here is trying to figure out what is best for the Jags organization. That's one thing the national guys aren't doing. National guys usually just protecting their contact or whatever else. But today it came out that, hey, Shad doesn't see it. There are multiple guys that said this morning after the Cohen thing, Shad's not seeing it. He's the only one not seeing it. I mean, come on now. I've been talking about that for at least 2 weeks, if not 2 months and 2 years. But again, whatever helps get it done. The bottom line is you get to the point where it's like whatever helps get it done, what's good for the organization. I do not know everything that's good for the organization. I'm not running the organization. I don't have all the intel on the organization. But I have been around here 17 years and watched this and watched it not go well and some of the reasons why you think it doesn't go well and have some information at why it doesn't go well. Like, I'm not just making this stuff up. Some people do, the narratives, but we're not just making this stuff up and trying to get it right and fix it. And it feels like, again, this got nothing to do with us. I'm just saying it feels like the noise got loud enough. Or simply Liam Cohen and that told Shad what he needed to know. Because maybe he was on Liam Cohen. Maybe he really wanted Ben Johnson. Maybe he really wanted Liam Cohen. And then Shad's smart enough to see exactly what we saw and what I just talked about. They're not even in a position where they could offer Liam Cohen the job. Still, today, they can't until tomorrow. And now you do start to wonder, does the Patrick Graham interview still go on tomorrow? Does the Saleh interview still go on Friday? Does that reset things a little bit? I would assume they would, but you never know. We get some Baselli, Newmark, Kingsbury, or Leftwich as the head coach. Keenan McCardell, Brunell, Freddie T. Saleh. Okay, that ain't happening. Yeah, Jason Hamby says, what must Doug Peterson be thinking right now? Good question. Good question. Let's see. Sorry, Tony Baselli. I got a feeling you're not going to have to apologize, be sorry for Tony Baselli. I think people really took that as full defense mode of Baalke instead of the organization. But I won't get into that again. Just go read my article on actionnewsjax.com and you'll see the bigger picture. That's not a daily topic. That's a multiple month topic now of defending the organization. And somebody's got to be doing it at some point, protecting Shad Khan. As Austin said, protecting Shad, protecting Baalke, protecting whoever from themselves. Protecting the organization from themselves. Shad didn't mention he's going to hire a new GM in the statement, so Waj is going to assimilate to the role. That's the scary part. Well, the bottom line is, at this stage, I think it's anybody but Baalke. So right now, I could be the GM and you'd be fine. So I don't think you're going to get the Ethan Waugh criticism. I think he's just going to take you through the process. The way I look at it now is the Jags have a GM job open, a coaching job open, all the coaching staff jobs open, and more infrastructure in the front office open. I mean, they got a lot of things that they could fulfill. I think so much of it will depend on what they get feedback from the coaches. Maybe they already started to get feedback. Maybe there was some behind-the-scenes feedback. We never got to a second interview to see the feedback, or they did, to actually hear it to that degree. They might have got some of it, but again, I think you're going to get more of it the longer you go. Khan wasted a couple weeks. Yeah, they did waste a couple weeks on it. I think you got a better chance of hiring Tony Baselli than firing him, Tom. Shad backed into a corner with this mess. Clearly, head coaching candidates bailed because Baalke is still in charge. Complete pivot in the search is warranted here. And that's what they've got to do. Again, what I would say, I'm going to just repeat it a little bit, and we said it earlier today on the show, is you can be, like, everybody can be pissed off and mad, and everybody's going to be that. Now they might be a little bit even happier in the moment they're still kind of mad that it took so long, but they'll be happy at the end of the day that the end result was reached. But from a Jags organization standpoint, and I don't run big businesses, but I just look at this like you got to take a breath. You now pivot. You made this move. Now how do you go forward and make the best next move? How do you continue to make the next best move? And what does that look like? Because the Jags have to make a series of good moves to really sustain winning. This is not about 2025 only. This is about how do you sustain winning? How do you open that stadium with sustained success and continued success? You have a franchise quarterback. You have some pieces, young pieces, core pieces. You have some other things in place in the building. You have some good people in the building. Like, you don't have to fix the whole organization. You do have to fix some things bigger than just hiring a coach and moving Baalke, and I'll continue to say that. You have to fix the way things are messaged, the transparency, the relationship part. Maybe repair some relationships. Who knows? Like, these are things that you have to fix. Alignment. This freaking organization had no alignment with Baalke in place. Alignment's a big part of it. You can pretend alignment. There's no way an arranged marriage between Doug Peterson and Trent Baalke had sustainable success. Like, we almost said it from the jump. I think they were fortunate to get as much success and chemistry and all of that as they got. And they still had to fire. So this is not just hire Liam Cohen, get a new GM, put somebody in place like a Bassett, whatever. You then have to still go to work. No, not everything in the organization has to be ripped up and torn up and fixed. But it's deeper than just a person, a head coach, or getting rid of a GM. And I've said that now for weeks and months and everything else, and I'm going to keep saying it. Do not think it's solved because Trent Baalke's gone. The next part you got to get right. You look at what Washington's done. They had a lot go wrong. Look what Houston's done. They had a lot go wrong. Even worse than where the Jags have been, by the way. Now, Urban, you could have said the Jags were in those kind of situations, that toxic, everything's bad, it looks awful, like you got to fix. Again, credit to Doug Peterson a bit. He helped fix some of that stuff and his staff. But the Jags aren't even in a place where like Houston has been in these last few years or Washington has been, in my opinion. And they were able to fix it. And the reason they fixed it because of a series of moves. Part is getting the quarterback. Well, you think you've got that. And you guys could disagree or some will disagree. And I know there's Trevor haters out there. I'm not one of them. And I think a lot of people would say, yeah, we got that guy. Okay, that piece is already in play. You got to get pieces on the field. Okay, we got some of those. Maybe not enough, but you got some. But now you got to be aligned with the GM, aligned with the new head coach, aligned with whatever structure you're going to do, vision of the organization moving forward, and you've got to hit on those things. That's what Washington did. And they kind of backed into it, quite frankly, with Dan Quinn. They wanted Ben Johnson. D'Amico Ryans, that alignment that was a mess in Houston, they were able to figure it out. Look, they've won the AFC South the last 2 years. So it's doable. But you've got to now make the moves. We can bitch and moan about everything that went wrong for the last however many years, and we will, because that's what we do. But for them, they've got to move this thing forward and start making the right decisions for the right reasons with the same vision in hand. And I think the first domino could be more infrastructure in the front office, but maybe the first real domino, regardless of that, is the coach. Because if you want to be coach-centric, then that guy is going to have a lot of influence on what that looks like. So now this is about a series of moves for the Jacksonville Jaguars to get it right. Ben Salter says, we are so back, baby. Super Bowl, here we come. Why didn't we do this last week and hire the coach we wanted? I do think one thing, listen, I don't know if they could have got Ben Johnson. I think they could have increased their chances of getting Ben Johnson. But I would not have been surprised if Ben Johnson still took the Chicago job with or without Baalke. So I don't think I think it's irresponsible a bit to say, hey, you would have had him. No, you would have had a better shot at him. Fair enough. I don't know if you would have got him. It feels like he was pretty locked in Chicago. And that moved so damn quick he didn't even go to a second interview. But again, I don't know that. I don't think anybody knows that. I think everybody's going to jump to the conclusion that the Jags would have had him in Jacksonville if. And I don't know if I buy that. I don't buy that, in fact. Jamie says we missed out on the top coaching candidates. Not sure. We'll see. It's not even did you miss out on the top coaching candidates. Did you miss out on the best coach of the cycle? That's not automatically Ben Johnson. That might be Vrabel. Or it might be the guy you hire if you do it right. I know the chances of that probably not great. Patrick says about 3 weeks late. Redacted says there's hope. About time. Too little, too late. Might be too little, too late. Little late. 3 coaches. Chose another team. Imagine if the Commanders lose this weekend and Kingsbury's available. Possibility. Trying to see what everybody else is telling me here. We got the statement going. I wonder what Doug Peterson is thinking. Watching this. I can tell you I'm getting texts from people in the NFL world like, what in the world? What is going on? Like, I get it. That's the way it was. That is today. You can't deny that. You can't erase that. Todd Monken can call the offensive plays for Georgia, win 2 national championships with Stetson Bennett. Then what can he do with Trevor? I would agree. I think Monken could be and should be maybe a very viable candidate here in Jacksonville. Let's see what else we got. A little too late. That's what a lot of people think. And we got a lot of people jumping in. Appreciate you jumping in on this quick little session. Breaking news. Trent Baalke fired by the Jacksonville Jaguars. A little special edition of the Brent and Austin show. Austin down in South Florida. We just jumped on here for a little bit. We got to do some TV at 4 o'clock and 5 o'clock as well. I don't even know if I'm the one doing the TV. So maybe, Weber, if you're listening, come let me know if I got to do TV and do my hair in makeup, and all that stuff. I'm not doing makeup, folks. I'm just kidding. Trent Baalke fired. Ethan Waugh, the guy now that gets put in the place of helping Shad Khan, at least for the moment. He said others. I got to believe there's more infrastructure there. I'll read the statement once again if you're just jumping in. Following several discussions with Trent Baalke this week, we both arrived at the conclusion that it is in our mutual best interests to respectfully separate effective immediately. Trent leaves us with my deepest appreciation to his efforts over the past over the past 5 seasons. Ethan Waugh will serve as interim general manager and play an important role with others. I think that's notable, as we continue the process of interviewing candidates to serve as our new head coach. I'm deeply committed to building a winner here in Jacksonville and look forward to introducing a new head coach who will make that happen for our players and fans alike. I do wonder, and we'll talk more about this as I get to think about it a little bit more, and also, we have shows over the next couple of days. I wonder how much of a pivot.
I got TV.
Okay. I don't have to do TV. I wonder how much of a learning situation, eye-opening situation this is for Shad Khan. You sit there and you learn and you go through experiences, and these are, even though he's a man who's been around for a long time, he go through newer experiences here in the league because he's only been in it and around it for a dozen years, and definitely has learned a lot. And maybe to some people, not enough. And in this situation, we don't get it. Like, it's hard to defend it, figure it out, explain it, quite frankly. But what kind of learning point is this for Shad? Like, what kind of eye-opening experience? Does this open him to listen to more folks? Where maybe he's got such a tight circle. And you got to be a little careful. We almost applaud how, like, no information comes out of there. And that's okay, that part of it, but can he let more information come in? I think you have a lot of people that want to help. Now, listen, everybody's got an idea, and I understand that. And you've got to be careful how many people have ideas. There can be too many cooks in the kitchen. But you also got to find the right people to listen to. And I wonder if this sets up the organization in a better place, because what people maybe told him 4 years ago, what people might have told him 3 years ago, 2 years ago, 1 year ago, 3 months ago, 2 weeks ago, yesterday, came to fruition, where they got burned this week. by not having the process the correct way or as good as it should have been, and also having a really good job that they think is a good job with a bunch of different pluses and not being able to get guys. And a guy turning around, pulling the rug and saying, I'm going back to Tampa before I even see more about this job. Yeah, they're going to give me more money. But I'd rather do that than come over here and be the head coach of one of the 32 teams in the National Football League. That's eye-opening. So now, do some of the people that were trying to say things and Shad maybe listen but didn't listen enough or react or take action, do they become a little bit more part of the circle of trust? I don't know. I just wonder. I think that could be an interesting part of this, that if we look back in 10 years, we'll never know this right away, but if we look back at 10 years and hopefully things have turned here in Jacksonville for the better, that maybe some of those things happened. So it's wild. I mean, this is a wild turn of events. And I'm not sure people really thought we'd get here, and there wasn't a lot of evidence to see why. But I will say he opened that door last week, or 2 weeks ago in that news conference. And who knew it would be not the coach sitting in the room maybe getting the job that made the move. Instead, the guy that didn't get in the room, although invited back and taken the job that he already had, to kind of get to this point today where Trent Baalke is fired. That is a wild set of circumstances in that regard. All right, here's the deal. I got text Liam Coleman, salesperson of the year for tickets, and may never work for the team. It might be one of those deals where I got an idea, fan base. What do we say? We send Liam Cohen something. He's a Rhode Island guy, so maybe I'll start. We can get him like clam cakes and chowder or something. Maybe some stuffies. Stuffed quahogs, that is. We do a little bit of that and send it his way. If this all works out in the end. Even if he's not the head coach. He might have been the guy that kind of turned it. All right, let's do this. We have some TV to do. CBS 47, Fox 30 will have the latest on this. The Young and Norvell show comes up at 4 o'clock. We wanted to jump on, get some instant reaction. Appreciate you hanging out with us for a few minutes. It's obviously big news. Trent Baalke fired by Shad Khan, releasing a statement. Now Ethan Waugh will help him. Others will help him. It feels like they've just kind of started the search all over again. Although they do have second interviews planned with Patrick Graham and Robert Saleh. We don't know if that has changed. I'm not right now seeing everything that's floating around social media. You guys might have more information than me if there are some reports of things. But it seems like now this has actually opened up wider net. Monken, McCarthy, Brady, who knows, Kellen Moore being able to, Kingsbury, I know a lot of people are talking. Does it open up to the point where you even get some first-time interviews once again? Keep in mind, if like Washington wins, they didn't interview him in the first part, Kingsbury, so they would have to do that virtually. But I think some of these other guys, like Brady, even if he wins and he goes to the Super Bowl, they can go up there. Yeah, Zach Fortner, you said it, man. Or I always say thank you letters to Urban Meyer. Urban got the mech built, which he did, and it looks like Cohen got Baalke fired. Greatest record of any coach that's ever coached here in Jacksonville. He's 1-0. If you like that. And I would think, by the way, this ends the career of Trent Baalke in the NFL. He was flirting with retirement. Kind of wondered if he would retire at the end of this whole thing anyway. And now you wonder if he's like, had enough. And to be honest with you, I hope he has. That dude is taking some daggers, man. So hopefully he says, I'm going to go get out of here. Get out of Dodge. Go hide like Gene Smith teaching a class in like Tennessee or something. We haven't heard from Gene Smith in a decade. And maybe that's the way Trent Baalke decides to do it and ends his NFL career. Or maybe he ends up landing somewhere as a scout or something like that. I don't know. but he's not going to be in Jacksonville. And to me, that's a win for the organization and obviously a big win for the fans and everything else. Yeah, too little, too late. Many people say, I don't. Too late. But it's not too late. It's later than it should have been, but it's not too late. Jags can still get this right, and this was the first step in doing so. We'll see what happens from here on out, from a coach to a GM to a beefed-up front office, and how this process shakes out. We'll have it for you on TV, CBS 47, Fox 30, Young and Norvell Show. Going to talk about it on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network from 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. Terry Norvell, Patrick Young, and then, of course, we'll be back at it tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. until 1 p.m. on the Brent and Austin Show. Trent Baalke has been fired by the Jacksonville Jaguars as their general manager. Shad Khan making that move today. Have a good rest of your afternoon, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with us for a little bit.